Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jordan and today I'm going to be doing a movie recommendations video. I've been wanting to do a movie rec video for a while now because I've done a few book recommendations videos, but movies are another form of storytelling that I absolutely love and I'd love to share with you some of my favorites. These movies are definitely more underrated for my specific generation because, you know, we're uncultured swine or whatever. So they're not necessarily underrated for everyone. Some of these were popular, but they were just popular before I was born or right around that time. Or, you know, some of these are just videos that have come out recently that I don't think have gotten the love that they deserve. If you are a movie buff, you probably have heard of or seen a lot of these, and I'm kind of opening myself up in the comments, I guess, for probably a lot of people coming at me and saying like, oh, I've heard of a lot of these or I've seen most of them. You know, these are just movies that I think don't get enough love. I'm sure you've heard of at least some of these, but again, you may not have seen them, and if you haven't, then you should. So without further ado, let's dive into this video. I've kind of broken these down into categories, but they're pretty vague, but I just wanted to get a lot into here so that I cover a lot of genres and, you know, you guys get a lot of recommendations. So I'm going to start out with romance, or I guess more accurately, just stories that feature heavily a love story. The first one that I'm going to talk about is actually a movie that I rewatched yesterday, and I've seen it a couple of times now, and it is About Time, which came out in 2013. It is the story of a man. He finds out that all of the men in his family can travel back in time to different points in their life and change it in order to have the best life that they possibly can. It's a really interesting film, and there are a lot of time travel films that have love stories, but I find that it does it in a really interesting way and in a heartfelt way, and it's just a very charming movie. I will say at the end that the message is kind of ham-fistedly like shoved down your throat through an end monologue, but the movie itself is just really beautiful. The message is good, the themes are lovely, and I think it looks at life in a very honest way, which, you know, sometimes you don't really get with time travel, and I just thought it was really brilliantly done, and the performances in that movie were absolutely like brilliant, astounding. So the next movie on my list is for non-anime watchers. It is an anime, that's why it's underrated. I think it may be the highest grossing anime film of all time. So anime lovers, this is not underrated for you guys. It's just a movie that for non-anime lovers I think is a really good step into the anime world. I think people who don't watch a lot of anime will love this film, and it's not so far out that it's, you know, gonna turn you off from it. So this movie came out in 2016, and I like to describe it as a kind of mixture of Freaky Friday and Arrival. It's definitely a love story, but it is so much more than that. The art style in this is absolutely beautiful. It follows two characters, a Tokyo boy and a girl from a small town in Japan, and basically they find out that they are swapping lives every couple of days or weeks, and they'll wake up in each other's bodies. Now, this has been done a million times before, but I've never seen it done anything like this. There are a lot of elements that really took me by surprise when I first watched this movie. It's emotional, it is beautiful, it really gives you a look into the history of Japan too in some ways, and while thematically it's got a lot of Japanese themes, it's also very universal, which is why I think it's such a great stepping stone into anime for those who don't really like it or haven't really dived into it yet. The next movie on my list has two names. In everywhere but America, it is known as The F Word, and in America, it is known as What If. This movie stars Daniel Radcliffe, and it is a kind of quirky love story, but it is so cute. It's one of those really sweet love stories that you just can't help falling in love with. It's fairly conventional as far as the structure of love story, but it's just these two characters that are so sweet and so perfect for each other, and the actors are so perfect for the roles. It really is just a truly wonderful love story that I personally adored. So if you are a fan of the kind of quirky romances, then this is definitely for you, and it's just a really sweet look at two characters that, you know, are not perfect, but are perfect for each other. The next one on my list is Sabrina, and this is the 1954 version with Audrey Hepburn. They did a remake with Harrison Ford, and that one's okay, but I personally love the Audrey Hepburn version. I'm a huge fan of her, and I put this on this list because while it's not necessarily super underrated, I also feel like it's kind of overshadowed by Breakfast at Tiffany's and some of Audrey Hepburn's other movies, but it is my personal favorite Audrey Hepburn film. I think that the story is absolutely beautiful. I think it's really well done. The actors do amazing performances. I love Audrey Hepburn, so anything that she does, you know, I'm a fan of, but I specifically love this movie, and I feel like it's not talked about enough because it is just a really lovely film in my opinion. So the next one on my list is one of my favorite movies ever, whether it be popular, unpopular, of any genre. This is one of my favorite movies of all times, and that is because it was a staple of my childhood. It helped me get through a lot of difficult times. It made me bond with my sister. It made me bond with some of my friends. Like, this was a communally enjoyed movie between me and my family as well as me and my friends, and I just feel like this movie needs more love. And this is Anne of Green Gables, and this is the 1985 movie Anne of Green Gables. There have been a lot of Anne of Green Gables TV shows and whatnot, including Anne with an E, which came out recently, but the 1985 movie specifically is just so beautiful and well done. It captures Canada beautifully. Her story is amazing. Basically, Anne is an orphan girl who gets adopted by Marilla and Matthew Cuthbert, but you see it was an accident. They intended to adopt a boy, but somewhere down the line the communication didn't work out and they ended up with a girl. Immediately they fall in love with her because she is spirited and imaginative and just has so much life to her, and it's just this beautiful story of a girl who is not like other girls. And I don't say this in the, oh, I'm so cool, I'm not like other girls. She just really is her own person and she struggles with that, and there's something that is so honest and pure and full of life that I just adore about that movie, and I know that I will rewatch it forever and ever endlessly. I don't know why I included it in romance actually, because it's really more of a coming of age story than a romance story. So next up, I'm gonna kind of move on to action adventure type stories. Again, there are some on here that don't really fall into that category as much, but again, very loose categories. Please don't come at me. So first up on the list I have Master and Commander, which came out in 2003, and this movie is absolutely spectacular. It's one of my favorite movies and one of my father's favorite movies. It's just kind of perfect. This is about as close as it gets to perfection. So basically the story follows Captain Jack Aubrey and his crew aboard the HMS Surprise, I believe it's called, and they are basically charged with tracking down a French vessel that is near the South American coast, and it's their story of trying to capture this vessel that is kind of superior to theirs, and the story of Jack and how he kind of has to figure out how he's going to be able to do that. The characters in this movie are just so spectacular. The action is great. The score is one of my favorites. It's just so beautiful. The direction is amazing. The cinematography, like, there's literally nothing that I think I would change about it. It's so well done, and it's one of those things where everything is tied up really nicely. I think it just really takes advantage of film as a medium, and it really takes advantage of all the opportunities that it has with the story. So again, there's really nothing that I would change about this. The performances are spectacular. Russell Crowe is the lead, and he does an amazing job. If you like any sort of action-adventure type story, anything with boats, like, this movie is for you. I would recommend it to pretty much anyone. So the next one on my list is Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, which came out in 2010. This movie is also shot in Toronto, which is super nice to see because I love seeing my hometown, and I think it's actually set in Toronto, which is also super nice because a lot of things are filmed here but not necessarily set here. So it's nice to see Casa Loma and all these other Toronto landmarks that are on full display. This film follows Scott Pilgrim, who falls in love with this crazy girl, and she has 7 deadly exes who he must slay in order to date her. It's just a wild story. It's really fun. The action is amazing. They have this graphic novel look to it because I'm pretty sure that it's based on a graphic novel. So they make the film look like a graphic novel. Well, again, I'm not sure that it is necessarily qualifies as a underrated movie because I feel like a lot of people have seen it, especially with Baby Driver, because it was directed by Edgar Wright, who put out Baby Driver. So while I'm pretty sure a lot of people have seen this, I still don't think it gets quite enough love, and I don't think it's as appreciated as it should be. The next one on my list is Bourne Identity, and this is another one where it's like, okay, I'm not really sure that this qualifies as underrated, but I also feel like a lot of people my age haven't seen this film. Basically follows Jason Bourne, who wakes up with like full amnesia on this fishing boat, and he has all of these skills that are spectacular, like linguistic skills, and he notices kind of everything. Like it's insane. He's a very skilled operative with assassins chasing him, but he has no idea who he is. So it's this really awesome action movie. It's so well done and I love it. It's also one of the few action movies where I think all 3 movies are spectacular because it has 2 sequels and the whole trilogy is awesome. I think they made a 4th one. I don't think I've seen it. But the first 3 films with Matt Damon are spectacular, and I definitely suggest those to those who love action adventure flicks. The last one on my list is No Country for Old Men, and again, this is a super critically acclaimed movie. I'm not sure it completely counts as an underrated film, but I also don't think that a lot of people that are my age have seen this. This came out in 2007, and it is, it's a Western, but I don't know what to say besides that. It is so crazy and awesome. I would say watch the trailer for this one, which I will link in the description. I'm actually going to link all of the trailers in the description of this video. I would say just watch the trailer for that because I don't think I can do it justice with words. What I will say is that if you love cinema, you will love this movie. It is so well crafted, and I'll leave it there. So next, I only have 2 movies in this category, but these are just kind of like light horror thriller type movies. So the first one on my list is The Others, which came out in 2001 and stars Nicole Kidman. Basically, she's the mother of 2 young kids. They move into this beautiful English home, and the kids start to think that there are ghosts in the house, and at first she doesn't think that there are, but slowly she starts to figure out that something supernatural may be going on. It's a really intense psychological thriller type story, and I absolutely love how it was done. I think it was crafted wonderfully and the performances are spectacular. I love Nicole Kidman and she is perfect in this movie. I'm sorry if the camera just moved because it just died, so I had to switch the batteries, my bad. But the next one on my list is Let Me In, which came out in 2010. This is another kind of light horror movie, paranormal kind of thing, and it follows a 12-year-old boy who is constantly getting bullied. He's a very quirky kid, but he makes friends with this girl named Abby, I believe. She's played by Chloe Grace Moretz, and she's this kind of weird girl, but they become fast friends, and eventually he starts to suspect that she may be hiding secrets from him that are kind of dark. She only hangs out with him at night, and things are starting to kind of pile on that make it seem like she is maybe not who she says that she is. It's this really interesting, unique story that I haven't really seen anything like before, and I think it's so well crafted and well done. So if you like light horror or paranormal or kind of coming of age even almost stories, then I think that this might be for you. Next on the list, and this is kind of just in the other category, this is like things that didn't quite fit into the first 3 categories, so they're all over the place. But first on this list is 8 Mile, which came out in 2002. It doesn't really follow the story of Eminem, but it kind of does. Like, it's similar to his life, but it's definitely not biographical, and it stars Eminem, who is a rapper who lives in a trailer park and is trying to make it, and it's just a really well done movie. I think it's shot really well. I think that while it's, again, not super underrated. I feel like people who don't listen to rap, which is myself, are kind of turned off by the idea of this movie, like they don't really care to watch it, but I think that that's really a bummer because it's a really well-crafted story that deserves more love, and Eminem actually has a pretty good performance, I would say. I wasn't like, you know, it's no Meryl Streep, but yeah, no, I think his performance in that movie was really good, and the music in that movie is spectacular. A lot of the songs, if not all of them, are his own that he wrote for the movie, which is really interesting, and I think that his story is really inspirational. It's not his story, but the story is very inspirational. The next one on my list is The Graduate, which came out in 1967. This follows a young man who doesn't know what to do with his life, and it's kind of a love story, and it's really about him trying to find out who he is. So that's kind of, I guess, what I'm going to tell you about the story. It does have some love aspects to it, but I will say, as far as the actual directing and cinematography and the film aspects of this movie, it is spectacular. If you have any interest in film or filmmaking or anything like that, you've probably already seen it, but if you haven't, then you really need to watch this movie. The framing, everything about it is just so spot on and well done and intentional and just brilliant. So I actually hadn't seen this movie until probably a month ago when I saw it for the first time, and I know that it's one that I will come back to all of the time. The next one on my list is Lost in Translation, which came out in 2003, and this stars Bill Murray and Scarlett Johansson, who become two unlikely friends while they're staying in a hotel in Japan. It is a super quirky film and is another one that's just really well crafted as far as filmmaking goes. I think that it's very unique as far as the way that it tells the story and very subtle while being hilarious and just, again, super well done. This was another one that's critically acclaimed, but I feel like a lot of my generation maybe hasn't seen it, or people my age. But I would definitely recommend it to pretty much anyone. I think anyone can find things in it that relate to themselves and that are funny. And again, the performances in this are truly spectacular. Bill Murray just does such a phenomenal job in this film. The next one on my list is Witness, which came out in 1985 and stars Harrison Ford. So after a young Amish boy witnesses a murder, a detective has to basically keep him safe while he figures out who committed the murder. There's a bit of romance, and just the idea is really well done, and it's also by the director who did Master and Commander, and it's, again, the film is just crafted so magnificently. I'm in love with that director. The next one on my list is a French film. It's Amelie, which came out in 2001. This film is another one where I'm not sure that it is underrated. I think a lot of people are turned off by it because it is French though, which is tragic because it is one of my favorite films. It follows Amélie Poulain, who is a quirky French girl, and it's just this joyful look at life and living and people and humans. So basically, Amélie, after finding a small box, decides to find the owner of this box. It's obviously like a children's box, kind of a time capsule-y thing. And so she decides to find the owner of this box, and after that it just kind of spirals into her doing nice things for people. It's, again, just a beautiful film. Very unique as far as the color and the tone and the way that it's shot. It's very French, and I absolutely adore it. It's, again, one of my favorite films maybe ever. This is one of those things where the soundtrack in this film is just so spectacular, so even if, you know, you're not a fan of the movie, then at least you can appreciate that because it's spectacular. And the last one on my list came out in 2016. It is The Edge of 17, and this is a coming-of-age story following Nadine as she tries to navigate her life. Her best friend starts dating her brother, and after that she kind of just self-implodes and her world comes crashing down around her. It's hilarious and horrible and just really captured my high school experience. It's almost like biographical to me. It's like ridiculously accurate to my life story, which is why I connected with it so much. But also I feel like Nadine really has a truly beautiful character arc overall, and it looks at sibling relationships, which I love, and it looks at, you know, friendship dynamics and what love is, and, you know, young girls who throw everything way out of proportion. I just think it's really well done. I thought it was hilarious. Woody Harrelson is in this film and he delivers a great performance as her teacher, and it's one of my favorite coming of age stories in recent history. And I think that's where I'm going to end it today. I have a lot of movie recommendations videos that I can do, so if you enjoyed this, then please let me know. I know it was a little bit rambly and I apologize for that, but I just wanted to share my excitement over these films with you and let you know some films that maybe you haven't heard of or seen that you may enjoy. So if you did like this video, or if you have seen these films, let me know in the comment section below, as well as some of your favorite underrated films. And I think that's where I'm going to end it today. If you haven't already, like this video, subscribe to my channel, all that good stuff, you know the drill. And I guess that is everything, so thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next time.